Well, folks, we've been yakking about it. We've been threatening to do it here for the last few videos. And tonight, I believe we're going to officially kick off the next timber framing projects with all the little projects that we need to do to make the next project possible. Now, I don't know, I can't remember how much I've told you folks about what the process is going to be for the next one. So what we are doing, we're putting on a 20 by 24 addition onto the house. It's going to be timber framed. I'm going to the woods to cut the timbers, and while I'm down there, I'm also going to be cutting timbers for a proper sawmill building. So that'll be 2 timber frame projects, probably going to take us through the next couple of years of content on this channel, and I'm dying to do it. I really enjoy it. But so where we're going to be cutting timber is actually on a 2,000 acre hunting club about 2.5 hours south of here. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to go down there, spend the weekends in their lodge while I'm cutting timber. If the ground's frozen this winter and we don't have as much snow, I'm going to get in there this winter and start cutting timber. Now, there's a couple challenges that's going to happen with the way we're doing this. First challenge, no cell phone service there unless you get about a mile out of the club. They actually have a tree marked where you actually do get cell phone reception. So that's going to be a little more... that little bit of a safety net there, and especially since I don't move as well as I used to, definitely going to make sure I have somebody with me while I'm cutting timber, either going to be my wife or my son. And but on the plus side of that, we're not cutting trees nearly as big as we did for this barn. I don't need anything with 3-foot trunks or anything like that because I don't have any 10 by 16 tie beams or anything quite that large. Largest timbers we're going to have is they're going to be 8 by 8s, probably maybe 1 or 2 8 by 12s, things like that. But for the most part, it's going to be 8 by material. So all I need is trees that diameter of 11.5 inches on the small end in order to make those 8 by 8 timbers. The other thing we're going to be doing that's going to allow us to do smaller timbers is the next couple of timber frames is going to be hemlock, and that is because that is what I have available to me for these projects. I prefer white pine. You guys have heard me talk about white pine over and over and over again. I definitely prefer it. But hemlock is a very good choice too. But there's a couple things. If you're cutting hemlock for your timber frames, I recommend that you do not cut the hemlock from the forest edges. I recommend you resist cutting hemlock where they're exposed to a lot of heavy wind, like up on ridges, things like that. That's because they do develop quite a bit of grain shake when they're growing in those conditions under a lot of stresses. Where we're going to be cutting our hemlock, it's very sheltered. It's pretty dense thickets. It's the big woods. So we're going to be on the southern end of the Adirondacks, just outside of them. And we're going to be termites. So basically the deal that I have worked with this hunting club is when they come in, they have it logged every few years selectively. Like I said, it's 2,000 acres and they actually own it. Nothing's leased. They have it cut off selectively every few years to help maintain the property taxes, things like that. The fortunate thing for me is that the loggers usually don't want the hemlock that they have. It's kind of hard to get to with big equipment and so forth. But that's a perfect deal for me. I've learned over the years, especially with this project and a lot of other projects, you need to get creative. You need to do whatever you have to do to get the job done. That's what keeps a lot of you guys watching this channel is we try to do that. We try to stay at it to nauseam to get the job done. It takes me a while a lot of times, but that's what we do. So tonight's video, I'm introducing my newest timber framing tool, and it is not what you think. You guys heard me just say that we're not going to be able to get to the timber with any equipment. So we're going to have to do something to get the logs to the sawmill. So stay tuned. I will see you on the other side of it. I guess I better open the barn door so you guys can see what we have, huh? Well, here we go. Here's our newest timber framing tool to add to the stable. Now, she may look like a third-rate prom date, but I'm telling you, this thing puts out like a friggin' crack whore looking for a cheeseburger. It runs, I tell you, I gotta be honest with you, it pretty well runs perfectly. Somebody was not kind to the body on this thing, I can tell you that. So we have a few things to fix before we take it to the woods. To be honest with you, it's mostly cosmetic. There was some electrical issues on that. I've already taken care of those. Cooling fan not operating, the winch not operating, minor stuff. So this is a 2000 Honda Foreman 400. It's four-wheel drive, all-time four-wheel drive. They made this model of Honda from 1995 to 2003. This is one of the toughest working ATVs that you're going to find. Now, I know a lot of that stuff's a matter of opinion, but I picked this model. Now, these are hard to find, even in non-working condition. It's not that they're hard to find. They do come up for sale often enough, but they get bought up fast. This thing, I inquired about it about an hour after it got listed, and the gentleman I bought it from down near, I drove 5 hours south of here Friday night. We got home about 2:30 in the morning finally. The boy and I went down, picked this up. So from the time I inquired about it and made my offer to the time that I went and picked it up, it was less than 24 hours. The guy had over 100 requests for this machine. Now, she certainly is not pretty. There's a lot of stuff. This whole front plastic, this needs to be replaced. The bumper on the front here, they hit something with it and bent it. They actually busted the front rack off. I mean, they must have hit something pretty good and pretty fast with it to do that. But that's minor stuff. I mean, that stuff's all repairable, and that's what I'm looking for. I've got to fix the two lower headlights on the bottom. The high beam works really well. That's very bright. The four-wheel drive works. The steering's tight. The wheel bearings are very tight. Rear brakes work great. Front brakes need all new brake lines because they're all kind of dry rotted off. Underneath, the engine looks phenomenal. Everything looks really good. There's some mystery issues it looks like they had with this machine. I see some new plastics on the sides here. I see some heat marks. I don't know if somebody dumped gas and they had a little bit of a flash fire there and melted some of the plastics. I'm not sure, but what I can tell you, taking it apart, looking it over, the only wiring that was damaged was serving the winch, and we took care of that. So I guess maybe I better explain to you guys how we're going to turn this into our log getting machine. And probably most of you who are familiar with anything like this probably already know. I got a pretty good shadow here, huh? So most of you are probably quite familiar with log arches. So the next couple of videos, that's going to be next couple of videos, I did promise the boy that we'd build a hunting blind. We haven't done any hunting projects together yet. I have had him out hunting a little bit this year. First time I've been out much in years. But anyway, we've got a pretty good ball hitch on here. It's welded right to the back axle. That was the reason that I picked this machine up. For one, I know I'm going to beat it a little bit in the woods, hauling logs, things like that. But this has, I believe, an 850-pound towing capacity, and they actually performed that duty quite well, and that's actually perfect because a lot of the logs we're going to be hauling, realistically, we're probably in the 600-pound range. Now, the reason we're going to do the log arches, and we're not going to do your typical log arch that you see where you back the arch over the log, you winch it up in the middle, and it just kind of dangles there. We're not doing that. We're doing a different style of log arch. It is certainly no invention because they are out there. You can buy them. But you guys will see as we go forward. That's going to be our next fabrication project. Hopefully it doesn't take me too awful long, but it will have its own electric winch on it, all that good stuff, and I'm just excited. But in the meantime, let me walk you around some of the issues with this thing that I need to address and I need to fix. Let's see if I can do the shaky camera thing. So first thing out of the chute is this goofy ass camel fabric seat cover that they made probably when they set the machine on fire, but none of the foam's melted or anything like that. But I'm going to get a proper seat cover for it so that I don't get a soaked ass if it's raining out. Show you some of the things that have been done to it, the good, the bad, the ugly. There we go. We're going to do the shaky camera thing, guys. Tripod is gone. Oh, no. I hate videos where they shake the camera around, but here I am doing it anyway. Okay, so some of the heat marks I was telling you about. You guys could see right there. So I'm assuming they melted these side plastics. That one's brand new. This one's brand new. Of course, we're going to have to get decals. The only wiring damage I found was right here in these winch cables. Focus, you bastard. Okay, there we go. So in the other wires, I found the actual wire that runs the winch solenoid coil, which is in the storage compartment in the back of the wheeler. I ran all new wire with that, automotive grade wire, put it in wire loom. We did butt splices and heat shrinks. The reason that wasn't working, they said it wasn't working, was because they had ran their solenoid wire and they did the good old-fashioned twist the wires together and tape them. No wire nuts, no butt splices, no heat shrinks, no freaking nothing. So that was a pretty easy fix. Like I said, we just, there it is right there. There's the new wire I ran. All nice and heat shrink. I actually have it on a fuse block. Yeah, fuse block right there. And we tie it right directly to the battery to run that solenoid. And then, of course, most of you are pretty familiar with this. So there's our winch cable right there. Now, the other thing I found with it, there's back in here, there's a cooling fan for the oil cooler and also cools this head. That was not working. So down here, and you guys won't be able to see it, but down tucked underneath all that good stuff, there's an oil temperature sensor in there, and that actually completes a grounding circuit that runs to a control module that actually runs that fan. So what I need to do is I need to get I found the wire off of it in kind of in rough shape. Well, there's part of it, and that looks like it's had some heat damage. Well, there's the other end of it. That had some heat damage there. That's disconnected. The actual sensors under here is the other end of the sensor wire. We're going to get rid of that. This wire, we're going to replace the oil temperature sensor. And I did order up a new control module for that fan. But for right now, my hillbilly fix, always the hillbilly fix. I took a, little single pole, single throw switch. So I can run that fan. I don't even know if you guys can see it. Probably not. But that's not too bad. I mean, that'll keep us going. It'll keep us from burning things up. So the engine is actually in really good shape. I took a light through there, all that good stuff, believe it or not, for the age of this thing. All the rubber boots, like off of the back shaft and the front, and the CV boots and all that. None of them are dry rotted. None of them are cracked. And I have not found any oil leaks on this anywhere. The gearboxes, no oil leaks, none of that stuff. Oil was quite clean in it. Of course, hard to see. No. I know why AVE always yells at his camera to focus, but that oil is really clean, and I've been running it pretty well. I know they just changed it in the filter before I picked it up, but that gives me that makes me happy, because if I had valve problems, things like that, blow back into the oil, that would already be turning black. I probably put 30 or 40 miles on this thing the last couple days, just running the piss out of it to see what I'd have to fix. I did find also, when I took this apart, the fuel line runs back under here, and they had that kinked off. They didn't run it. I don't know why, but somebody replaced it, and they did not run it in the proper channel down there underneath the snorkel to the brand new carburetor. They did put a nice new OEM carburetor on it, which is nice. Helps me a lot. Well, there's new battery in it, new air filter, all that good stuff. So moving along, And this is the part that drives me nuts right here. All this busted up, smashed up plastic. And they did a number. Whatever they hit, they did a number on it. So you're busted up pretty well there. Busted up pretty well there. And if you could see, oh yeah, you could see that. That front bumper, they did a number on that. Like I said, the same time they did that, they busted that top rack off. These actually straighten out pretty easily. I'm just going to get a bar in here. It bent right at that point right there. It did not affect the frame at all, which is good. So all I have to do is bend this back. No, I have no idea what happened here. Don't ask. I have no idea. But the skid plates, the brush guards for the CV axles, they're in pretty good shape. Need a lot of paint work and stuff like that on this undercarriage, but I don't think they ran this over rough ground too much, at least not over a bunch of rocks, because the skid plate underneath's in really good shape. Winch works very well. I'm probably going to have to replace the cable. It's probably the original worn winch cable that came with it. So, oh yeah, it came with a plow also. Maybe I should go get that and show you that as well. All right, boy, just a snow plow just magically appears on this thing, huh? So, I have a nice moose plow on here. It looks like they hit a couple things with it, but it's not too bad. You know, raises just fine, lowers just fine. Does put a lot of weight on the front end of this thing though, just like your truck plow does. But it's not too bad. I do need to get the plow shoes, find a set of those so that I'm not dragging my gravel up. But they did bend it up a little bit. Looks like I do have a little bit of welding to do. Take you over to it. Gosh, it's messy in here. Don't I say that a lot? So right here, and who knows if whatever they hit, maybe they did this at the same time. Who knows? But they definitely caught something pretty hard and heavy there, and they actually busted that weld off and bent it just a little bit, but it does swing just fine. So that's not a problem. Make a liar out of me, you jerk. Okay, well this way it swings just fine. So definitely have a little bit of work there to do to get it where it needs to be. But it's all in all, it's not too bad. I'm pretty happy with it. I'll just do some little TLC with it and go from there. I will say the best part of the machine is it starts very well. It shifts super smooth. I'm already happy with it. Reverse works. Best part, no smoke out of the muffler. Well, there it is. There's our newest addition to the timber framing family. Now, I know it looks just like a toy for me to bomb around on, but believe it or not, I bought this strictly for working it in the woods. The cosmetic stuff is driving me nuts. Something about my wheelers, I like them to look nice. When we're done with this thing, it'll look like a new machine. That's going to take some time though. The plastics are not cheap. New front end plastic for this is almost $200. The rear end plastic's over $300. Now, at least there's new pieces in the middle. We're missing a couple of pieces also. Like I said, the seat needs to get redone. Now, To me, this is like a Cadillac. I've never owned a four-wheeler. I've always had three-wheelers. I bomb around in a 1986 Honda Big Red. That thing runs flawlessly, nothing wrong with it, has reverse, all that good stuff, shaft drive. But I can't take that thing up to the woods and haul logs with it. It will end up destroying that machine. It's only a 250 for one. And it's 30 plus years old. It's like 34 years old. And real easy to break stuff on a really nice machine. So I also, funny story, now my wife's uncle has a 2004 Yamaha Grizzly that looks really nice. Has a little bit of a rattle in the front end when he puts it in four-wheel drive. So I'm going to be checking out the CV joints in the gearbox, and either way it's not a horribly expensive fix. But I had called him before I bought this one and offered to buy that off of him, and I'm not sure. I kind of felt like I put him on the spot a little bit, and I didn't mean to. He's a pretty good guy. And this came up, I saw it, the price was right. I went after it, picked it up. I almost walked away when I saw the cosmetic condition of it. I just about got my truck and walked away, but I said, you know what? We drove 5 hours down here to look at this thing because the listing pictures always look better than what you actually get. And that wasn't the seller's fault. I mean, he did a good job taking pictures. And I tell you what, he held this thing even when he had offers for more for it. These things go like hotcakes. You just cannot. It's hard to catch them in time when they come up for sale because they're so popular. But there's a big reason for that popularity. They're just plain tough machines. You could beat the shit out of these things. They just keep going. A lot of other machines, they don't work that well. 20 years old, and I bet you this thing works just fine hauling logs out for us. But so anyway, back to the story about my wife's uncle. So I didn't hear from him for a few days. This came up. I said, I'll just run down, take a look at it, and if it runs nice, shifts nice, I'll pick it up. I get home from work today, he pulls in the driveway behind me, and I felt like an asshole. Yeah, because I went and bought this, I hadn't heard from him, and this, like I said, this came up. Yeah, I repeat myself constantly. So anyway, he gave me the damn machine. He says, you could have it, and so I'm going to grab that this weekend right down the road. So we will have two-wheelers. And now we have something for everybody in the family to ride. Now my 13-year-old son has the nicest wheeler in the whole family. He has a brand new Honda Rancher 420. Grandma and his uncle are very generous to that boy, but he works really hard for it. He's helping out all summer long. They see how hard he works. So they rewarded his hard work with a nice gift. But so if this doesn't do it in the woods, that Grizzly certainly will. But the reason I'm probably going to be using this in the woods is because it's a solid axle. It's a lot better for pulling stuff out, things like that. You're not beating up the suspension nearly as hard as you would on... So this really, if we're hauling with this, it's really not riding on the suspension. The weight's on the axle, and they're pretty beefy axles. But if you're hauling on the Yamaha, that's independent suspension, all four tires. So you're actually putting all the weight on the suspension and just beating the shit out of it when you're hauling heavy stuff with it like that, especially if you have any amount of tongue weight. Now, the idea with the log arch, though, is to make it so there's not much weight on the tongue at all. We're looking more to have that weight supported by the arch itself. So you guys will see what we're doing with that. That's the stuff that we're coming down the pike. We are gearing up, like I said, if I'm able to get in there this winter, we're going to get in there this winter and we're going to start cutting trees. I think I also failed to mention that I'm getting these trees for nothing. They pretty much, it chokes out the hardwoods that they like for deer hunting, and the hemlock's just spreading more and more and more, which to me, I love hemlock trees. I like hunting in the hemlocks. A lot of deer like to eat it in the wintertime. But so pretty much I have free range to cut anything with needles down there. If I find white pine, I can cut it. Any of the hemlock I can cut. There are some stands of white pine, but they're really hard to get to, so we're going to explore that a little bit more when we get down to it. So anyway, enough of my yakking. Again, another video of mostly yakking at you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm trying to put out as best I can, guys, and get the comments as best I can. I'm still working out of town. I'll be out of town again tomorrow. I don't get home till late. And the jobs I'm on, some big boilers that they just don't completely cooperate. So it's hard to get on the phone during the workday when I used to answer questions while I was watching equipment run. It's hard to get on there right now and answer your comments, but I'm doing the best I can with them. So anyway, have a good evening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the next one.